Thanks for joining me for this third aspect of growing disciples, grow disciples. And when I was thinking about the topic I want to talk about, I'm going to go to the playroom where the kids are, but it was such a mess that I knew if Sarah wouldn't appreciate that. So I brought a couple toys up on my desk here, and you can see I brought some of the kids' trains. And here's a piece of track and one of the little cars. And the thing about a train is that the car has wheels, but the wheels have to have two rails. If you only have one rail of the track, the car and the train won't go anywhere. It needs both of them. And what I would like to talk about as we talk about growing disciples, grow disciples, I think there are two aspects that are so critical to that discipling relationship. If you take one of them away, it won't go anywhere. And the two words that I like to use is word and deed. A discipling relationship has to have both aspects, the word and deed. To maybe put it another way, talking and adventure, or conversation and mission, or discussion and doing. But word and deed, if you take one of those away, one aspect of the relationship, and here's what happens. If you just sit around and talk about the Bible and about God, and that's all you ever do, you will get spiritually fat. You have to do more than just talk. But if you go to the other aspect, if you just do, and all you do is do things for God, you're going to miss the intimacy that comes from connecting with Jesus Christ. And that's why it's so important to have both word and deed. Both word and deed. Jesus modeled this. Let me read from John chapter 3. We looked at this verse in the first video, and it says this: after Jesus, John chapter 3, verse 22, after this, Jesus and his disciples went out into the Judean countryside, where he spent some time with them and baptized. They didn't just spend time together. They did do that, but one of the things that they were doing on mission together was they were baptizing people. And I think Jesus included the disciples. He didn't allow the disciples to do the baptizing. It was something that they did together. It was a mission. It was a deed. Let me give you another one. We turn over one more chapter to John chapter 4, and a very familiar passage. And here Jesus is, and he's taken his disciples from Jerusalem to Galilee, and he instead of goes around Samaria, he goes through Samaria. And it's a long journey. It was kind of their adventure race, probably 60, 70, 80, maybe even up to 100 miles that they would do together. And look what happens in John chapter 4, verse 7. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" So Jesus is here at this well sitting because he's thirsty. They've been on this long journey. And you might be saying, well, where did the disciples go? Where did his students go? And John answers it in verse 8. His disciples had gone into town to buy food. So here, Jesus is sitting, and he has a divine appointment with this woman to talk with her. And his disciples are off at Subway getting food because they're hungry. Not really Subway, but wherever they would get food, he went and got food, the disciples. And you see these two rails of the train. There's two rails of the track. Word and deed, both of them are so important. If you take one of them away, if you take word away, or if you take mission or deed or doing or adventure, whatever word, descriptive word you want to use, you take one of those away and you miss what God wants the discipling relationship to look like. Some of you might be saying, well, what are some of the different words or deeds or things that you can do together? And one of the things I would say is, maybe you might co-lead and work on, in your discipling relationship. You might look and say, hey, let's plan an outreach together. Let's work on something that the church is doing. It's one of the things I'm doing right now with, the Warming Brookville. I included one of the guys that I'm discipling along in that we can do it together. We're spending time talking on a weekly basis, but also let's do something together. Let me give you another example. I'm meeting with some teen guys, and one week we are sitting and talking, with the study that we're doing. But then the next week we're doing something different. And like yesterday, spend time, we got our bows out and we shot our bows. We did something together. And as we're doing that together, we bring up what God is doing. And as we're shooting our bows, we're talking about what sin is, and that is missing the mark. No one, when we were shooting our bows, no one hit the bullseye every time. So we're talking, but also we're on mission, and we're doing something together. One of the things that we've done in one of our discipling relationships is go and split firewood for one of the single dads. If we get a couple of us together, we can in an hour do what it would take him all day to do. So the word thing I think most of us get. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about the Bible. Let's spend time discussing, and that is very important. But also we need to have this deed part or this mission part. And what I would suggest is whatever you do, it doesn't really matter. Fill in the blank. Whatever it is you like to do it. But as you do it, bring Christ up. Bring him into the thing or the activity or the mission that you're doing, because he wants to be brought up. So in your discipling relationship, remember, it's both of these. You have to do them both. You have to do word, but you also have to do deed. If you only do one of them, the train's never going to go, and your discipling relationship is never going to go. And you look at the life of Christ and what he did, he was always doing both. There were times that he would spend time talking with his disciples, but also he was on mission, and they were doing ministry. They were doing life. They were taking adventures together. And so in your growing disciple relationship, I encourage you to do both. How are you doing with both? How are you doing with talking, but also how are you doing with mission? So go ahead and try that this week.